On July 7, 2017, a man walked into a Wells Fargo branch in Cobb County, Georgia, approached the teller, and claimed that he had a bomb and that he was prepared to blow up the bank if he didn't receive his money. The man was 33-year-old Brian Brown-Easley, a former U.S. Marine who had struggled with mental illness since his deployments to Kuwait and Iraq. When his disability payments from Department of Veterans Affairs suddenly stopped, he just snapped, making the desperate decision to hold up the bank to demand the $892 he depended on for child support and rent.
I don't want any of the bank's money. I don't.
Right, no, I understand.
Brown-Easley did not, in fact, have a bomb and insisted in calls to authorities and reporters that he did not intend to harm anyone. Still, after a 3-hour standoff, Brian Brown-Easley was shot in the head by a sniper. He died instantly. Some observers were quick to paint Brown-Easley's story as a tale of a man who went mad and resorted to violence. For others, however, it was a tragic example of what can happen when a country disregards the care of its veterans. The story caused such a stir that it was dramatized in the 2022 film Breaking, starring John Boyega as Brown-Easley. This is the story of Brian Brown-Easley and how he ended up at that Wells Fargo that day. Born in 1983, Brian Brown-Easley was the youngest of 8 siblings. His parents, Barbara Easley and Bobby Lee Brown, raised their children in a 3-bedroom ranch house in Williamstown, New Jersey. Barbara deeply cared for all her children, but she especially doted on her baby, Brian, who had a shy, kind, and gentle nature. Brian grew up playing PlayStation with his brothers and had few friends outside of his home. After high school, he decided to join the U.S. Marines. For 12 weeks, he trained at Parris Island and transformed himself into a strong, determined soldier. I could not believe my eyes, how polished he was, how sharp, tall, strong, said Brian's brother Calvin. I sat there in awe the whole entire time. He went in a little boy, and they turned him into a man. Brian Brown-Easley eventually found himself at Camp Lejeune as part of the 2nd Marine Logistics Group. There, he made a small group of friends who gave him the moniker Easy after taking note of how easily he would apologize for the smallest inconvenience. This small group of friends tightened their bond after being deployed to Kuwait together in 2003. Later, in 2005, Brown-Easley was deployed to Iraq. There, he worked 17 hours a day in a physically demanding warehouse job for months at a time, resulting in chronic back issues that would plague him for the rest of his life. While he wasn't on the front lines, he worked in close proximity to battles between the U.S. and local insurgent groups. Often, mortar fire would send the warehouse workers running for the bunkers. When Brown-Easley returned home later that year, he was not quite the same. After an honorable discharge in 2005, Brian Brown-Easley returned home and moved in with his mother in Jefferson, Georgia. There, Easley met Jessica Tate, a Walmart cashier, and the two moved in together and got married. From the outside, Brown-Easley's transition back to civilian life seemed successful. He had a home, a wife, and a support system, but things were not as cheery as they seemed. We noticed a difference in him right away, Brown-Easley's brother Calvin recalled. Brown-Easley began taking long walks by himself and flying into rages when his siblings teased him. No longer did he resemble the shy and apologetic man he had been. In a heartbreaking confession, Brown-Easley told his family that he was barred from re-enlisting in the military because he had been diagnosed with PTSD, schizophrenia, and paranoia. If you are new around here, please take the time to like and subscribe. It's free and only takes a second. Thanks. Then, in 2008, multiple things happened in Brown-Easley's life at once. Jessica became pregnant, and both of his parents fell ill, requiring him to spend most of his time in New Jersey taking care of them. Eventually, his mental illness got so bad that Brown-Easley checked himself into a Veterans Affairs mental hospital and broke off contact with Jessica and his newborn daughter, Jayla. Brown-Easley would later explain to Jessica that it was for their safety. He believed people were after him and didn't want to endanger his family. Over the next few years, Brown-Easley bounced between staying with his brother Calvin in Georgia and another brother in New Jersey, attending filmmaking classes in Florida, and joining fringe religious groups. Eventually, he moved to Marietta, Georgia, and fostered a close relationship with his daughter, who was now 8 years old. He began taking computer classes at a local for-profit college and was helping to support Jayla using his monthly disability checks. He called his daughter every day and dreamed of being able to buy her a dog. For a short period, it appeared that Brown-Easley was finding some normalcy. But that all changed after a series of frustrating run-ins with the VA. In the years following his honorable discharge, Brian Brown-Easley received monthly disability checks of $892 from the VA. These checks went towards child support and paying rent. For Brown-Easley, these monthly payments were vital. So when his check didn't arrive on July 1st, 2017, he panicked. In the days after he noticed the check was missing, Brown-Easley frantically called the VA's Veterans Crisis Line 8 or 9 times. The hotline was designed to provide suicide prevention and crisis intervention services for veterans 24/7. But allegedly, the VA staff hung up on him during several of these calls. On July 3rd, Brown-Easley arrived at the VA's Regional Benefits Office for an appointment to discuss the missing payment. Brown-Easley appeared extremely agitated and belligerent. His behavior allegedly became so worrisome that staff placed him in handcuffs and waited for him to calm down. Once Easley calmed down, the spokesperson said, police removed the handcuffs and a VA benefits supervisor explained to him that his compensation check was recouped due to a debt he had created by his failure to complete college courses. The VA claimed it had sent him multiple letters informing him it planned to do this. But because Brown-Easley had moved around so often, it's unlikely he ever received these letters. He agreed to return to the VA office on July 6 for another appointment and left the regional office voluntarily. But Brown-Easley never returned for his appointment. Instead, he concocted a desperate plan to hold a bank hostage to demand the money he felt was rightfully his. On July 7, 2017, around 9:30 a.m., Brian Brown-Easley entered a Wells Fargo bank in Cobb County, Georgia, and told the teller that the backpack he had slung over his shoulder contained explosives. Brown-Easley allowed everyone but 2 bank employees to exit the building. From there, he demanded the hostages lock the doors and remain calm as he got on the phone with 911, a crisis negotiator, family members, and several news agencies.
I was stationed at Camp Lejeune for 4 years, and I only did 4 years. Yeah, I only did 4 years in the Marine Corps. And when I got out, I moved to Georgia. I moved in with my parents at they were living in Jefferson, Georgia at the time. That's where I
Speaking
met
to
my
Stephanie
ex-wife.
Steiger of WSB TV for nearly 40 minutes, Brown-Easley relayed his life story from his military service to his love for his daughter to his current predicament. He explained that he didn't want to hurt anyone and didn't even intend to rob the bank. He just wanted his $892 disability paycheck.
They took my disability check, and I have nothing, and I'm going to be out on the street. I've been able to hold up with my last little bit of money I got. I've been able to hold up at a hotel, but I'm going to be out on the street, and I'm going to have nothing. I'm not going to have any money for food or anything. I'm just going to be homeless, and I'm going to starve.
He even let the hostages speak to Steiger, and one of them told her Brown-Easley was very respectful.
Well, I don't want, these ladies are very nice, and they've been really helpful and supportive, and I don't want to hurt them.
Right, no, we don't want anybody hurt. We want everybody to be safe.
Well, I just want my money back, and I don't want them to get hurt. So that's all I'm concerned about.
Brown-Easley also exhibited signs of paranoia on the phone call, stating that members of a secret society were following him and had tried kidnapping him on 4 occasions. "I don't know these people," he said to Steiger. "They seem to be able to track me wherever I go. They have my information." Throughout his phone calls, Brown-Easley would sometimes stop to cry, holding his head in his hands and muttering to whomever was on the line, "I just snapped." If you are new around here, please take the time to like and subscribe. It's free and only takes a second. Thanks. As Brown-Easley spoke on the phone, police and SWAT teams were starting to gather outside the bank. It wasn't long before the thought of law enforcement crossed his mind. "I don't know if they have snipers set up, or I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they have SWAT out here. I can't see that well," he said to Steiger. Eventually, Brown-Easley seemed to sense that the conflict was nearing an end. In an eerie prediction to Steiger over the phone, Brown-Easley said, "Well, I probably won't see my daughter again." And he was right. After ending his call with Steiger, Easley spoke over the phone with conflict negotiators, finally agreeing to release one of the hostages in exchange for a pack of cigarettes. SWAT officers were optimistic they could resolve the crisis, but after a 3-hour standoff, despite hearing over the SWAT team's radio that negotiations were being made, and despite an order from the assistant SWAT commander not to shoot at this time, Dennis Ponte, a member of the tactical team, took matters into his own hands. There was no effort or energy being put forth toward releasing somebody, Ponte would later say. He shot Brown-Easley in the head, killing him instantly. The news of Brown-Easley's death and the events leading up to it shocked the community. For some, Brown-Easley's final act was one of violence. After all, he had threatened to blow up a bank, holding innocent people hostage. For others, Brian Brown-Easley's story painted a deeply disturbing picture of how veterans are treated in the United States. Struggling with mental illness, receiving limited support from the VA, and with apparently nowhere to turn, Brown-Easley had been pushed to the edge. Those who knew Brian Brown-Easley insist he was not a violent person, but a man who had become desperate when it seemed he had run out of options.